The dinner rush had just started at McDonald's on Fairfax Boulevard in Virginia. The restaurant smelled like fresh French fries and burgers. You could hear the beeping of fryers in the kitchen and teenagers laughing by the drink machines. Kimberly Wright was 27 years old and had been working double shifts at McDonald's. Her feet were tired from standing all day, and her back ached. Most customers didn't even look at her when ordering, but she didn't complain. Work was work, and rent wasn't going to pay itself. That's when she noticed him, a tall, skinny teenage boy standing by the ordering screen. He wasn't like other teens who usually came in being loud and messy. This boy was different. He stood quietly with his hands tucked in his hoodie pocket, studying the menu like each choice was really important. At first, Kimberly barely noticed him, but as the line got shorter, something about him caught her attention. He looked like he wanted to disappear, like he didn't want anyone to notice him. When Kimberly called, "Next," he hesitated before walking up. His face seemed familiar, but she couldn't remember where she'd seen him before. "Can I get a quarter-pounder meal large?" he asked quietly. His voice was soft but clear, like someone who was used to people listening when he spoke. "Sure thing," Kimberly said, and started putting in his order. But then she saw his face change. A look of panic crossed it as he checked his hoodie pocket, then his jeans pockets. Kimberly knew that look well. She'd seen it many times before, when customers realized they'd forgotten their wallet or didn't have enough money. I think I forgot my wallet," he mumbled, looking down at the floor. He seemed embarrassed, probably expecting Kimberly to get annoyed or tell him to leave. The other cashier looked over, waiting to see what Kimberly would do. But Kimberly just smiled and said, "No problem, happens to everyone." Before he could walk away, she added, "Hey, it's on me. Go ahead and get your meal. You can pay it forward someday." The boy looked shocked. He stood there for a moment, not sure what to say. Finally, he nodded and said a quiet, "Thank you." Kimberly used her employee meal discount to pay for his food, acting like it was no big deal. When his food came up, a neatly wrapped quarter-pounder, large fries in a red box, and a cold drink, the boy found a seat by the window, away from everyone else. Kimberly noticed he didn't pull out his phone to scroll through social media like most teenagers. Instead, he sat up straight and looked around the restaurant carefully, like he was taking everything in. A few minutes later, a well-dressed man in his 50s walked in. He wore a dark suit and had an earpiece in his ear. Definitely not your usual McDonald's customer. He looked around the restaurant until he spotted the boy, then walked over to him. They spoke quietly, and the boy quickly finished his food and left with the man. It happened so fast that most people didn't even notice. The next few days were strange. Kimberly kept seeing a black SUV parked outside the restaurant. It would just sit there with its engine running, its dark windows hiding whoever was inside. She tried to ignore it, but something felt different, like something big was about to happen. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a regular afternoon, and Kimberly was cleaning the counter between taking orders. The black SUV pulled up again, but this time someone very special stepped out. Melania Trump, the former First Lady of the United States. The whole restaurant went silent. People stopped eating and started taking pictures with their phones. Kimberly's heart was beating so fast she could hardly breathe. Melania walked straight to her counter, looking elegant in a clean white coat that seemed too fancy for McDonald's. The restaurant manager appeared out of nowhere, fixing his tie and standing up straighter. All the other workers were whispering and staring. "You are Kimberly, right?" Melania asked in her distinctive accent. Her voice was gentle and kind. Kimberly wiped her sweaty hands on her apron. "Yes, Mom," she managed to say. "I want to thank you," Melania said, "for helping my son." Kimberly felt like someone had thrown cold water on her. Her son. Then it hit her. The quiet boy in the hoodie had been Barron Trump, Melania's son. She couldn't believe she'd served a former president's son and hadn't even realized it. Melania took out a white envelope and placed it on the counter. "Please open it," she said. With shaking hands, Kimberly opened the envelope. Inside was a beautiful handwritten note that said, "Kindness is rare. You gave without expecting. That is why we want to give back to you." But what made Kimberly's legs feel weak was the check inside, for $50,000. The room filled with whispers as people tried to see what was happening. Kimberly could barely speak. I can't take this," she stammered. Melania just smiled. "You already have." Then she did something even more surprising. She gestured to the SUV, and Barron stepped out. He looked different now, wearing a nice jacket instead of a hoodie, but his quiet manner was the same. He walked up to the counter and held out his hand to Kimberly. "Hey," he said softly, "I just wanted to say thank you." When Kimberly shook his hand, she noticed how tall he was up close. "No problem, kid," she said, with a small smile. "I never forgot what you said about paying it forward," Barron told her. "I think this is a good start." But they weren't done yet. Melania said they wanted to do more, and Barron pulled out another set of keys. They were for a brand new Toyota Camry parked outside. They had found out that Kimberly's old car was always breaking down and leaking when it rained. Kimberly could hardly believe it. Her hands trembled as she held the keys and the check. Some customers were recording everything on their phones, and others just sat there with their mouths open, amazed at what they were seeing. "You didn't have to do this," Kimberly said, still in shock. "Neither did you," Barron replied quietly. As Melania and Barron left in their SUV, Kimberly stood there, holding the check and car keys, trying not to cry. Her whole life had changed in just 10 minutes, all because she'd decided to help someone who'd forgotten their wallet. The restaurant was buzzing with excitement. Some people were clapping, others were just shaking their heads in disbelief. Kimberly's manager still looked like he might faint. Looking down at the check again, Kimberly laughed softly. All of this had happened because of a $5 meal she'd barely thought twice about. She'd always believed in being kind, without expecting anything back. But sometimes, life surprises you in the biggest ways. That day, everyone in the restaurant learned an important lesson. Even the smallest act of kindness can create waves of good things that you never expect. Kimberly hadn't helped Barron to get attention or rewards. She just wanted to help someone in need. And now that simple moment had turned into something that would change her life forever. This amazing story shows how a little kindness can come back to you in ways you never imagine. Sometimes the smallest good deed can lead to the biggest surprises. Have you ever had a moment where your kindness came back to you in an unexpected way? Share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. Because you never know, the next amazing story might be about you.